Hello, what is going on, dudes? My name is the Teen, and I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the Alola games. Let me explain. If you've been on the channel long enough, you would know that all 4 of my playthroughs of the Alola games have been on YouTube. None of them have been on my own time, including this one you're about to watch, and so I have a lot of my opinions shared amongst those videos, but there are some through threads that continue even after almost a decade of them being out. My issues mainly stem from the Ultra games. Now, the reason being is that while they are fantastic, in retrospect obviously, and far better than Sun and Moon, they should have just been a singular third version of the game, because they didn't change or add that much to warrant 2 brand new individual releases that came out just a year after the originals. They didn't really give us enough time to be with the originals without making a remake in some other game or something like that, which they didn't need to necessarily. They could have just taken the year off and put more time into other projects, but they did. And in retrospect, obviously they're really good games, and I would know having had to replay it again, and this being my technical 3rd time playing the Ultra games. The other 2 reasons I have my problems with the Alola region are it's not the game's fault. It's things that happened outside and because of those games that are actually like a sore spot. I got actually ostracized from the community that I was in because of a fucking logo. I'm probably going to put it up on this side here. This logo caused everyone to turn against me. And it was a very stupid argument. It was me literally sharing that I liked the logo that I made, and then a bunch of people berating me, and then me saying that they don't have the right to judge what I make, and then everyone else turned on me. And so that kind of showed it was a really tough point. I didn't even expect to explain that I was going to explain all of that. I was just going to say it was just a long story, but that was the short version of the long story. Anyways, on top of that, that specific series made me hit a major burnout wall and made things, when it came to creating content, feel like more like a chore for the next, I don't know, 5 years. Not until like end of 2023 is when I really felt like I came out of that burnout. And so there's just been this stain on my mind left because of what happened in those years with the Ultra games. My goal with this challenge is to rectify that, to create a positive memory with these games in order to not hate them, because they're not bad games. And so I decided we're going to do another Professor Oak challenge. Lord, did I not know what I was getting myself into. In August of 2024, while I was sick with COVID and stuck at home, I decided to go start my first ever Professor Oak challenge for my first ever playthrough of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, which, for the most part, was a ton of fun. While I don't enjoy the shiny hunting method nor the controls in the Let's Go games, it was a really good experience when it came to my first ever playthrough of what actually is my least favorite region of Kanto. And so, I wanted to use that experience, that great experience, and put that challenge on the other games that are probably near the lowest of my list. And so, we're going to be completing a Professor Oak challenge in Pokemon Ultra Moon. What does a Professor Oak challenge mean? Well, you want to basically catch every single possible Pokemon you can before every single major obstacle. In most Pokemon games, that means the gyms. But the Alola games do something completely different. There are no gyms, there are trials and kahunas. And so those will be my roadblocks, basically. Then once you capture every single Pokemon you can before every section, you grind up every Pokemon to their max stage of evolution. In total, this will mean 12 events, and something like that. However, there are a couple of sections where there are a couple trials mashed together because you just simply do not get access to any more areas where you would be able to catch more Pokemon. I will also say that I am not a hard ass when it comes to Professor Oak challenges. I myself am going into this one specifically completely blind. I did not look at a guide or if there was a guide or anything like that. And I know Johnstone never made an Alola video. And so I am going into this by my own, researching on Cerebi as much as I can. And there are certain things that I miss. So there will be times where I do not technically catch every single possible Pokemon I can for every single specific section. And when you see an asterisk in the top right corner, actually for you guys top left corner, you will know that there is a slight mistake that I do correct later, because eventually we do get to the correct number. But there are a couple of issues, and so if you're someone who's super stickler and like super hard-nosed about a Professor Oak challenge, I apologize. There's a lot going on in this Professor Oak challenge, and I'm doing my best. I will not be including island scans, nor the Pokemon you can get only in Poképelago, which I actually don't think are any. I think you can only catch Pokemon that are available in there. I think maybe you can technically get Pokemon earlier than normal by using Poképelago, and I just am not gonna try to brainstorm that and whatever. We're just gonna roll with it. And Poképelago, basically, if I find a Pokemon in Poképelago that's a part of that section, I'll add it to the section. Otherwise, I will not. Nor do the Pokemon from the Ultra Wormholes count, aside from the Ultra Beast, which I will have to go get the Ultra Beast, but the normal Pokemon that you can find in the Ultra Wormholes are not a part of the Alola Dex. Same with the Island Scan Pokemon, which is why I'm not doing them. And so, after that pretty long intro, I completed a Professor Oak challenge in Pokemon Ultra Moon, and here's how it went. The Alola games are notorious for the amount of unskippable cutscenes we must endure, and so I was just basically mashing A for the first 45 minutes of the game as they spammed a bunch of gratuitous cutscenes on me. Eventually, we get ahead of Professor Kukui and get surprised by a Yungoos who comes from the grass. Pokemon has another on your left moment as the Alola starters run up to save the day, with Kukui close behind. He lets us pick our desired starter. And here it doesn't really matter who you pick. In retrospect, I probably should have picked Rowlet because Decidueye gets False Swipe while the other two do not. However, I picked Popplio, which is my favorite of the Alola starters and the first one that I picked. I don't know if it's actually visible in my background, but there is a Popplio plush. I don't know if I'm pointing to him, but he's in the top right on the top right shelf. And it also doesn't really matter which starter you pick because they do all evolve at the same levels. After spamming A through almost 40 more minutes of cutscenes where we meet and battle our rival Hal, we find the strange girl in all white named Lily whose Cosmog is being attacked by pesky birds, meeting the kahuna of the first island Hala, and then getting Persona 5 forced to go to bed. From there, we're allowed to leave and finally start the Professor Oak challenge once Kukui gives us some Pokeballs. Starting our adventure here on Route 1, the first Pokemon I found was Grubbin, then next was Caterpie, then Lediba, and finally Pikipek. Unfortunately, I don't yet have the XP share, meaning only Aquarius, the Popplio, will be getting experience from these early catches. So I decided to progress the story until I could get to the trainer's school, where you get the EXP share. After playing with the Rockoff on Route 1, I also found a Baniri, which I added to our team. Before I could go to Iki Town, we encounter two weirdly dressed people who don't introduce themselves and eventually just leave, and we totally won't see them later. In Iki Town, it's time for a festival, where we must again battle Hal. I kinda wish I'd put one of my new captures up front so they could have gotten some experience in the fight, but it's not that big of a deal. It's gonna be a lot of grinding either way. It said Tapu Koko took a liking to our battle, and then rewarded a Z-Ring. The weirdos reappear as we go to leave, talking about light or something, as if they're Misa Amane. The next day, Lily fetches us to go to Kukui's lab on the beach, where he says some sus stuff through the door. He gives us a Rotom to put in our Pokedex, and then tells us to go to the trainer's school. On the way back, I found and caught a Wingull, which took multiple Pokeballs because this part of the island no longer has the 100% catch rate. Feels bad, man. Upon arriving at the trainer's school, the Tauros blocks our way, and so I decided to go back and catch everything that I hadn't already. And this is overwhelming. This was just Route 1. Going back to Route 1, I quickly found and caught Yungoos and Pichu. Immediately, I found a second Pichu, so now it was time to make it SOS. SOS is the new mechanic introduced to this game, where a Pokemon can feel threatened enough to call in help. Sometimes, that help is the same species that called it, other times, it can be very rare Pokemon, and this is a very good method for shiny hunting. Pichu will normally call in a Pichu, but sometimes, Pichu can call in a Pikachu, or other Pokemon like Happiny. After I was waiting in this battle for 10 minutes, as it turns out, you can't do the SOS method until you beat the first challenge of the Island Challenge, being the normal trial. And so I do not have to worry about these encounters for a while. And even then, there are more restrictions which I will discuss later as they come up. After many Wingull, I finally found an Inkay, right after Caterpie evolved into Metapod, and then I finally found a Slowpoke, which I decided to end the day with. The next day, I came back during real-life daytime to catch Spinarak and Alolan Rattata, which are nighttime spawns in the Ultra games. We only had a couple more Pokemon to catch at the trainer's school, being Magnemite, Meowth, and Zorua, during which Metapod evolved into Butterfree. I also remembered Pokemon Refresh would give my Pokemon boosted experience at 2 Affection Hearts, so I got to work feeding my Pokemon some beans. I actually forgot to find Grimer, so I had to go back and find Grimer, which took a long damn time, and my Popplio evolved before I found it. After petting Tauros, mashing A through so many unskippable tutorial cutscenes, and trying to mix up my luck with the limited options I had, it was time to catch the Pokemon in Howley City, which includes Furfrou, Abra, and Mime Jr. We then had to beat some Team Skull grunts and then prove to Illima we were ready for his trial. Then, while retrieving an item, my Pikipek grew to level 14 and, to my surprise, also evolved into Trumbeak. Upon leaving the city, we're immediately attacked by Lily, and then an Ekans. After a bit of searching, I then added Makuhita, Smeargle, and eventually Drowsy to our total. I then headed over to the Howley Cemetery, where I added Drifloon, Ghastly, and Zubat to our total. After heading down to the beach, I found the Sandy Cave, where I ended up finding a Psyduck. Later down Route 2, we can find Growlithe, Cutiefly, and Spearow, with Dunsparce being a rare shaking spot encounter. I caught a second Spearow so I could trade for the Hawlucha after the Howl battle. During this part, Lediba finally evolved into Ledian. Once Grubbin got to level 18, I used my 2 rare candies to evolve it into Charjabug so I could grind new Pokemon, so I will not be able to evolve it further currently, until we get to Pony Island or multiple Thunderstones. The final Pokemon that remains is Crabrawler, and I won't lie, I cheated a bit. Berry Tree piles are supposed to respawn every day at midnight, yet for some reason the piles in my Ultra Moon copy will not and would not respawn. Man, I'm actually really mad about this. So initially, it had been like a little while, I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something up with the clock. There's nothing up with the clock, I haven't changed the clock. Let me show you here. Exactly what time it is right now. And for some reason, this stupid goddamn berry spot will not respawn. So I'm glad I did my quote-unquote cheating that I did, because it was really annoying. I checked every day for multiple weeks when I went to actually start grinding and did not find a berry pile, and I did not understand why. I got so fed up with not being able to finish the section with all the catches, I just caught one on Ultra Sun and used Pokemon Bank to move it over. Funny enough, I didn't actually end up having to do this because later on, things started working correctly and I was actually able to find a berry pile and get him respawned. So there's that. I don't appear to be the only one who had this issue though, because I looked into things and found other people who were coming up with the same issue. And my only thought is that the CFW on my Capture DS actually was like somehow messing up and like resetting the clock with Luma multiple times, and so the thing thought that like the time was not actually passing and I was manually adjusting the date. That would be my guess, because I wasn't needing to adjust the date anymore because I wasn't working on any other project but this one. With that, we've captured everything currently available to us, and now it's time to grind up our team. The best place to grind at this point right here is right outside of Verdant Cavern, as we're right next to Pokemon Center, and I just started plugging away. I won't be documenting specifically how long each Pokemon took, like other really popular Professor Oak challenges. Rather, I will tell you all at the end of the section how long it took to complete that section. The first 3 evolutions were Alolan Persian, Raticate, and then Mr. Mime, while I was hunting on my 2DS and relaxing. And then, before my next evolution, while I was grinding away from home, I found my first shiny of the challenge. Okay, so I'm grinding in the Professor Oak challenge. I haven't yet started grinding my Drowsy, and I'm glad I didn't. Look at that. I just found a shiny. Wow, look at that. That's crazy, dude. Okay, well, I'm training up my Magnemite right now, so I'm gonna paralyze this thing and I'm gonna catch it. That's so sick. That's so sick. This was actually my first ever random encounter shiny in the Alola games, funny enough. And I was recently thinking about, I was gonna play Final Fantasy 13 because I wanted to try it, and so I'm gonna name it Lightning. Because she's pink, and yeah. I don't know what nature to guess, so I'll see it immediately. It's a neutral nature. Hey, she quirky! She quirky! That's really cool, dude. But I didn't expect to find the shiny. I was expecting to find a shiny, but not so soon into this challenge, so I'll go get her in a bit. Not long later, Abra evolved, but since I can't trade, we won't be getting Alakazam. Then Lopunny, Magneton, which we can't evolve for a while as well. Then Toucannon, which caught me by surprise. And then I accidentally found another Pokemon I didn't realize I hadn't caught yet, Murkrow. I somehow missed it on the Howley Cemetery page, as it replaces Drifloon during the night, which is during the daytime in Ultra Moon. While I play the rest of the evolutions for you, oh hey, there's lightning. The XP formula change made grinding Slowpoke so annoying, as it was the Pokemon that required the highest level of all the possible encounters to evolve at level 37. And I spent a ton of time just training it up and grinding other stuff in the back. Oh, wait, never mind. I forgot Grimer actually evolves at a higher level, level 38. And math out to get from level 33 to level 34 for Slowpoke, I needed to do about 100 battles, best case scenario, based on the amount of XP I was getting as my Pokemon got higher and higher leveled. It is really annoying that they changed the XP formula. I believe it's actually the same one that they used in Black and White, unfortunately. Oh yeah, I actually found out that I got Pokerus in this file while we were driving to Kansas City to get my new kitty. Her name is Mercedes. She needed a new home, and I thought my cat Bosco needed a friend, and Mercedes needed a home. It worked out perfectly. It's not particularly useful for this challenge. Actually, it kind of ends up being a detriment a little bit later, but it's pretty neat. I was about 2/3 of the way through the section that I realized how to consistently get Rotom powers, and that I could soft reset for ones that I wanted, being either XP power or encounter power. The latter of which was actually far more important in the early game, but it was huge also in cutting down time for grinding up the Grimer. Near the end of the section, I was hanging out on call with Spare and Jad while grinding. We were talking about shiny hunting, and at some point I had mentioned my Pokemon Sun cartridge that had disappeared, and had my shiny Pokemon on them, including my Cutiefly, which was my first ever shiny Pokemon in the Alola games, and I made a video on that if you want to go watch that. While discussing that, Jadric happened to mention he was looking at his Pokemon home the other day, going through some things, when he found a shiny Cutiefly that he was pretty sure had the name of Olivia, and I was caught off guard, because no one else used that name. That was my name for all the Alola games. And then I was confused why he had it, because why would I have traded that? I don't know if this was the original or if he made a copy of it just to keep a copy of it. I have no idea, but I'm glad that he did, because that means that I had a legitimate version of my original shiny. And she's in Pokemon Home right now, still. He went back and confirmed and made sure that was actually her, and it was, and traded her back to me. The ID matches up, and it's the same name from the video. So, it is the real one, which is kind of wild. I forgot that was when I had that shitty Fire Emblem decal on my DS, dude.
So one of these, I had a
dude, that's the same DS I'm playing on right now.
Dude, that's
8 years,
trippy, huh?
8 years later, but it wasn't broken then, and it was modded. It was modded at that point, but that was the only one that I had. And
Another alternate universe.
dude, why do you have it? I'm so glad you do. Why do you have?
so
Why
glad
did you
I do
have
too.
it?
Past you obviously did it for a reason.
Oh my gosh! You know, it's a good thing I'm recording my audio in this segment, because now you all can hear this conversation. Why did Jedrick have it? She's gonna get her chance to shine.
Hell yeah.
Actually become a Rabombi. And so I'm gonna do something a bit weird here. As you can see now, Bree is in the game. This Cutiefly never got to do anything. It was bred and then sat in a box, and then the cartridge disappeared. I guess I probably traded it to Jad for something. Maybe I reset that cartridge. I have no idea. And so she'll be joining us on this adventure for at least part of it. It means absolutely nothing for the Oak Challenge. But as you can see here with Side X Evolution, we're finally done with the first section of a total playtime of 36 hours and 38 minutes and a total of 67 Pokemon. The most you can catch on one copy of Pokemon Ultra Moon before the first trial. Upon entering the trial, Ilima informs us we must defeat 3 Pokemon, and then we can face a very strong Pokemon, the Totem. After a bit, Team School Grunts jump us, which they promptly lose by my massively overleveled team, and eventually help us corner one of the Pokemon we must defeat, allowing us to take on the Big Rat. Bree handled this battle with great ease, and the first trial is completed. Immediately after claiming our Z Crystal, Ilima tells us we can now catch Pokemon in the cavern. Inside the Verdant Cavern, we can now find Noibat and a lowland Diglett. Ilima commands the barriers to be eliminated, and now we have the rest of the island available to us. Aside from the Rock Smash Rocks, we still have to wait to break. But before we can continue, Kukui forces us to watch a tutorial on how to click a button, and then tells us to help him find Lily. Now we can finally go to Route 3, where we can catch Minky, where I got my first critical capture of the challenge, in the first part of the grass, and Volibee from the flying spot. Then the Spearow demonstrated the SOS method, which we'll be using quite a bit in this section for our first target, Salamence. I feel like this is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, SOS encounter in all of these games, where you have the chance of calling in the level 12 Salamence at 1% from fighting a Bagon. And I definitely want to spend time trying to find it because you don't get Salamence until level 50, which is a massive grind. And we already have a super late evolution in this section, being Volibee because Gen 5 evolution levels. We'll come back for it, as it's a 1% encounter, and I don't really want to record the grinding for this space reasons. We find Lily in the Melee Meadow where Nebby has wandered off and we have to chase it down. Fun fact, I actually learned this just very recently. The names for all of the different islands in the games are named after colors, which is the reason that the Oricorio forms and the flowers in the meadows are exactly those colors, which is really cool. Here in the meadow, we can catch a whole bunch of Pokemon, Flabebe and Petalil. I was actually very excited for this, as I assumed Cottony was in Ultra Moon. Make sure you go check out the Pokemon White's Shiny Badge quest if you want to know why that's important to me. Then I had to run back and switch out Bree for Lightning because Bree, who is the OT of the original Lilia, was past the level cap, which apparently is just 20. Also, I might have gotten Pokerus again. I'm not sure, or I had a Pokemon that happened to still be a carrier, but if it did happen a second time, that's ridiculous. Back in the meadow, I then found the last Pokemon here, Oricorio. After following Nebby into the frigid seaward cavern, we're challenged to a battle by the weirdos of the Ultra Recon Squad. In this cave, we can catch Smoochum and Delibird, the latter of which really pissed me off because of how many Pokeballs it wasted. Upon returning Nebby to Lily, we leave the meadow and are immediately challenged by Hao, who is quickly demolished. They then tell us it's time to go fight the Kahuna, but we've still got to find SOS encounters before then. While hunting for Bagon and knocking out Pokemon as I went, Flabebe evolved. After a ridiculous number of encounters where I got a bunch of levels from grinding, I finally found Bagon. Then my Smoochum critted it, and at the very end while I was trying to use Lick to lower its HP and paralyze it. I did not know this, that Pokemon that are status do not SOS call, which is kind of weird because I feel like that would make them more likely to call. Unfortunately, I didn't figure this out until I had found another Bagon and it refused to call for help. I also don't have Adrenaline Orbs, which is going to make this exceptionally difficult. I'll try this again when eventually I find another Bagon while grinding here. I decided that before I start majorly grinding, I should grab the final member of the section, Happiny. I literally can't get any more Pokemon without Tauros' help, and the only way to get it is to sit in an SOS battle with Pichu, so this will be fun. And some of you may have listened to that I said earlier and thought to make a comment because it turns out without Adrenaline Orbs, it's impossible to get extra SOS encounter slots. You get one per battle. Now, initially when I was writing the script, I thought it was you could only get the same species of Pokemon, that it would only call in that Pokemon if you didn't use the Adrenaline Orb. Now, that is not technically true. Any Pokemon can call in one of the additional SOS slots, provided you just get lucky enough. But it obviously boosts your odds if you use the Adrenaline Orbs. But you don't get Adrenaline Orbs until the second island. And so, I learned this after doing a bit more research while trying to find Pichu in order to have it call in Happiny. Supposedly people complained about SOS being too common in the original games, and so they decided to nerf it a bit. So that means Bagon was the last Pokemon that we can catch for the section, asterisk. And so it was time to grind. While there are not many Pokemon in this section, I have a feeling that the grinding itself will take longer than the last section, for the fact I have 2 Pokemon that evolve at 50 or later. For Bagon at least, I can cancel its evolution every time it tries to evolve into Shelgon to gain more XP, since that boost was introduced in Pokemon X and Y and still exists for Pokemon past their evolution levels. Nevertheless, I've been grinding Roto encounter powers for this very specific section because the high level Haluchas give very good experience. Side note, it actually super sucks that the extra SOS encounters were like impossible at this point for another reason, because it would have been nice to chain Halucha with SOS. One, because then I can have Pokemon that gives the best amount of experience over and over again, but then also have a chance of finding a shiny one. I mean, there's still obviously a chance of finding a shiny one just because of how many Pokemon I'm going to have to fight before the end of this, so, you know. While plugging away at grinding while my lunch break at school, I had taught early in the morning and I had a couple classes later in the day, I found another special surprise.
I just found a shiny cutie fly. So, that's kind of funny that I brought in my other one and it's so funny. Oh my gosh, man. Okay, well, of course it had to be the one actual duplicate. Show me the cutie fly, please. And maybe I have to use 2 cutie flies. That's okay though, because they're both cool Pokemon, so. There we go, thank you, buddy. Sick. I have to look up how to pronounce the name, Diavanilla, or Diavanille. I don't know how they pronounce it, but that's vanilla in French, vanille. but also from Final Fantasy 13. Look at you, cute little thing. It has a timid nature. That's really good, actually. Never mind Jolly. I wasn't looking at the right attack stat for some reason. Jolly is actually terrible, but that's okay.
Not long after, Diglett evolved. Later that evening, while chilling at my desk and doing more grinding, Mankey evolved. The next day, while walking to class, my third Rabombi evolved. And a bit later, Smoochum finally reached level 30 and evolved into Jinx. Now the only Pokemon remaining that I have to grind for this section are Vullaby, Bagon, and Noibat. All three of these Pokemon evolve around 50, 54, 50, and 48 respectively. And grinding that far against level 12 Pokemon at best is going to take a long time, especially with Vullaby and Bagon being in the slow experience group. Because of course, luckily I've been able to do a pretty good job of farming Encounter and XP boost Rotom powers, which will shave off a few hours at the very least from the final total. However, I'm technically slightly breaking the rules again. Not slightly, I'm actually breaking the rules again, and then I gave myself my lucky egg from my Ultra Sun copy. Now, there's gonna be, I don't know, if you're like super purist, you're gonna be mad at me. The problem is that I was fitting in this grinding when I had time, and I wanted to be able to produce this video for you guys, and it's ridiculous amount of XP that I have to get these Pokemon. It's gonna shave off a few hours marginally. It's not gonna be like a massive amount. It's not gonna make it like go by so fast, because it's gonna take a hell of a long time, because I'm still grinding against level 12 Pokemon. You know, it's not like I'm getting that much extra XP from it. Also, I did mess things up and accidentally traded myself the wrong Pokemon because I was mashing A, and so there's a Pokemon that we don't get until Akala Island, which has been added to my Pokedex. I'm still going to catch it when I get to the actual point on Akala Island in the challenge, but I accidentally traded it to myself because I was mashing A. That was stupidness, frankly. But for example, to get Vullaby from level 40 to 41, it takes about 6,000 total experience. Yet the average amount of XP I was earned at this point was at max, like around 40 points per battle. And it could be as low as the mid-20s, meaning it would take approximately 150 battles at max to get to the next level. And it only gets worse from there. The fact the amount of XP I get from battle doesn't like plateau and actually does keep going down sucks. It's really annoying, specifically for this challenge. I do believe that they specifically implemented in the game to prevent you from doing these super over-leveling things. Obviously, the Professor Oak challenge isn't because I'm trying to make it super easy for me to beat the game. My challenge lies elsewhere in the actual thing, but, you know, it does suck. Specifically for this challenge, it absolutely sucks. Theoretically, though, this should actually be the hardest section because of the Pokemon that we have to train up and the level of the Pokemon that we're having to fight. 40 hours later that I passed, walking to and from class, to and from the bus stop, watching YouTube videos, learning coding, and while playing video games, Bagon grew to level 49, and I let Swouse evolve into Shogun. Noibat then evolved into Noivern, and once Vullaby grew to level 43, I used one of the final rare candies. I used actually my final rare candy that I had from the drink bar guy for using a bunch of Pokebeans, and finally evolved this damn baby vulture into Mandibuzz. As the final evolution of the section, Swouse finally evolved into Salamence. With 89 hours of game time, the section is finally complete, and it's time to rinse this kahuna. As I mentioned, ignore the fact that it says 86. Technically, 85 is the amount of Pokemon that I have caught in this game without me messing up. Asterisk, I don't remember which side I said it on. I'll just, whatever side I fucking point to is the side it'll be on at that moment. I don't know, I'm making it harder for myself. Technically, the final total should have been 88. I'll talk about that later. While Swouse destroys Hala, let me quickly explain her name. There's a random meme where like a person starts saying something and then it's immediately put in reverse, so it sounds like Swouse. And every time I hear Bagon's cry, I hear Swouse, and that's it. Anyway, the final trial on Melee Island is now complete. Upon beating Hala, we're given access to our first ride Pokemon, the rock-smashing Tauros. Tauros immediately gives us multiple new encounters to find right away on Route 1, as well as collecting a few items in other places on Melee Island. For encounters, from the beach section of Route 1, we can break the rocks and go into 10 Carat Hill. Within this cave, we find Moyle, Roggenrola, and while searching for Carbink, I accidentally found the Flying EMZ. Eventually, Carbink showed its face. It took a long damn time despite being a 20% encounter. A bit further, we encounter Spinda, Rockruff, and Machop. Going back up to Route 1 towards Iki Town and breaking the rocks there, we can access the rest of Route 1. where we can find Munchlax and Bonsly. As this stands is all the Pokemon we can catch on Melee Island. We'll come back a bit later once we get Surf and the fishing rod. After being forced to take photos at the photo club, then being pressured to help Lily return Nebby to its home, we head to the beach to do Mantine Surf. Before we get there, we're stopped by Alolan Oak, who doesn't even realize we're doing his cousin's challenge. Mantine Surf is actually pretty fun, but it's not that pertinent to our challenge, but I'll keep the music going since it's really good. Now we've arrived on Akala Island. After spanning through a metric ton of cutscenes, I update my look. It feels very fitting to wear this iconic top for once. And then we have to follow Lily to the hotel. I took the socks off, don't worry. As we go through the hotel, we're stopped by Dexio and Cena, who want to battle. We quickly beat her before they tell us to go to Route 4, which is where I plan to go anyway. There we find Mudbray, which was our second critical capture, though it failed because critical captures are BS. They're rare enough that if you get them, they should auto-catch. Then Igglybuff, after which I learned the Soothe Bell was on Melee and I forgot to get it, so I went back to find it. And then my DS died after being on less than an hour. I need that new capture DS so bad. And funny enough, I did not get it in the process of doing this. I have it now. Where is it? I have a case on it right now because I bought a case for it, but I have a new capture DS now. I forgot to turn on my light box. Anyway, yeah, I didn't get it throughout the entirety of doing it. I got it after I was done with it, funny enough. But now I can double hunt when it comes to the second part of the Soul Silver Shiny Badge quest. Oh my gosh, I can't speak today. I've been talking a lot already. Luckily, I had saved after I got the Soothe Bell, so I didn't lose much progress. I actually forgot to start recording, but as I returned back to Route 4, I immediately found a Lillipup. We can actually get an Eevee in a little bit, so I don't have to sit here trying to find the 5% one here on Route 4. Right before Paniola Town, we find our first Adrenaline Orb, meaning we can go get Happiny back on Melee Island. Damn it. We'll handle that soon. Arriving at Paniola Town, we're challenged by Hao, who is quickly beaten by our Rockruff and Mudbray. After that, we rescue a Vulpix from Team Skull before heading to Paniola Ranch. We get given access to Stoutland from Mallow, and then go hunting for Pokemon here. Mareep, and then 2 5% encounters, Tauros, which was literally the next encounter, and then, finally, Miltank. Once we arrive at the Pokemon Nursery, we can get an Eevee egg. Now! Because Eevee has a million evolutions, I kind of really need to get a female Eevee here, because I need to be able to breed the Eevees with another Pokemon in the Field A group, because I don't have Ditto yet. So I'll be stuck here hatching Eevee until one is finally female. It only took like 6 eggs, but without like Flame Body, it still took a while. After breeding all the Eevee, and then hatching the 2 I'd need for Espeon and Umbreon, we head to Route 5. Pretty quickly I found Fomantis, which was the Pokemon I accidentally traded to myself back on Melee Island. Messed up the dex number, so now we're totally back on track. And believe it or not, aside from Happiny, there is no other Pokemon I can catch right now. That is, if I can't exit the water trial, which would give us both the fishing rod and surf. I forgot that we get the fishing rod at the end of the trial, but upon talking to Lana, we get access to Lapras, one of the surfing ride Pokemon. So now we can go get the rest of the section's counters, starting with Dewpider, then Sylveon? Yeah, I got Soreza, the original Eevee, to 2 Affection Hearts, and she evolved quickly after. The only other Pokemon we can currently find in Brooklet Hill, and actually all of Akala Island, is Poloegg. Heading back to Melee Island, I decided to look for Happiny first. Both Bonsly and Pichu can call it in, so I decided to try Bonsly first. Their flails did so much damage to my Rockruff, and I got annoyed because of how many times they knocked out my strongest Pokemon, and so I went for Pichu, bringing my static Pikachu and Fearow, which can learn False Swipe for some reason. After a chain that neared 20, Happiny appeared for us. And maybe, unfortunately for me, it had an Oval Stone, which I was actually very excited to see because that meant I didn't have to go find another to get one from it. Meaning we can get 2 more Pokemon than I initially planned. I don't know what the chances, I think it's probably like 50-50. I'm kind of glad that I found one because it would have been very unlikely to find a Happiny otherwise. On my way to Kala'e Bay, Happiny evolved into Chansey. In Kala'e Bay, we find Tentacool, Igglybuff finally evolved, and then the 20% of Finneon and Mantike, which took so many encounters to find, after which Eevee evolved into Espeon. Also, on my way back, the Smoochum was being annoying, and the first one I called in was Happiny. This is what I was talking about earlier. Technically, I didn't realize that the additional slots that were listed on Cerebi technically can be called in by the first call. I thought it was always the initial Pokemon would always be the initial call, and then you'd have to have the Adrenaline Orb to get anything after that. I was wrong, and I didn't know this until this point specifically. So technically I had failed the challenge again. Like I was saying, it should have been 88 for the first section. Either way, that's now every single Pokemon that we can catch at this stage in the game, so now it's time to grind. Literally the next day after 2 battles, we had 4 evolutions. Blissey, Snorlax, Lycanroc, unfortunately it's my least favorite form because I had to have my game set to night, and Umbreon. And after that, our evolutions trickled in over the course of the next few days. Finneon's Pokemon refresh animations take obnoxiously long, which annoyed me, so I wanted to bring that up. But the longest grind for this section was Fomantis, which evolved at level 34, which is so much nicer than what I had to deal with in the last section. Very near the end of the section, I was in a very, very long Lillipup SOS chain. I decided to try shiny hunting and grinding at the same time. I didn't find a shiny because my chain ended prematurely because I confused the healthy Lillipup with Finnegan's Water Pulse and it hit itself. And the next turn, it tried to use Baby Doll Eyes, priority move, and it hit itself again, and it knocked itself out. Meaning my attack knocked out the weak one that I had doing the calling. Oh well. I was pretty frustrated, but a similar situation to Bree, Kormaru got called up from the White Shiny Badge quest. And so she is here now. You should go check out that video. That's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. It might be my best. I thought, why the heck not bring her on and have her on the team? Because it'd be cool to have a full team of shinies at the end of this. That's about it. Anyway, with Finneon's evolution in Lumineon during a particularly irritating game of Valorant, 128 Pokemon in our decks, and over 102 hours of total playtime, the third section of this challenge has finally been completed. We quickly braced through the water trial, being exceptionally overleveled as usual, and the section is now finished. Upon completion of the water trial, Lana gives us the fishing rod, which is how we will get most of the encounters for this section. To start, we head back into Brooklet Hill to find the next couple encounters we need. Paris during the day, Surskit and Morlul during the night, and Magikarp in the fishing spots. The first of which I accidentally killed, and then I happened to find a very high leveled one. And then my DS died, despite the fact I should have had 4 bars when I changed the console time. I really needed that card, dude. I have to literally chain this one to the desk. It's not allowed to go anywhere. It has to be plugged in basically every time I use it. After catching back up, I went down to the Totem's Den and didn't even realize it had different encounters, where I happened to find the Wishy-Washy, and eventually, Alomomola. In the other parts of Brooklet Hill, we can fish up Goldeen, that normally 1% and only 10% in the bubbling water Feebas, and Basculin. This stupid fucking fish with so many Pokeballs, and I had to use a Roto Catch to catch the stupid thing in a timer ball! I then headed to Route 6, where there are no new Pokemon to catch, but after the first battle, Magikarp evolved into Gyarados. A bit further, we meet Hapu, who we'll learn more about later, who is protecting a Drifloon from Team Skull. We help her beat the Grunts, then we're forced to go to the Royal Avenue. Clearly, I wasn't too excited about that. In the Pokemon Center, we're offered a trade for a Barboach, so I ran back to Brooklet Hill to get another Tentacool to trade with him. I'll deal with the Royal Arena later, but for now, we'll continue on to Route 7, where we can find Staryu in the bubbling spots, and Pyukumuku in the sea. Both first try, by the way. To the west, we can head to the Wella Volcano Park, where we can find Fletchling, Cubone, which in the process of trying to weaken it, called in a Kangaskhan, saving me the effort of tracking down the 1% one. Oh, wait, which it was literally the next encounter anyway.
There's no way. This is literally the next encounter.
After which Fletchling evolved, a female Salandit, being the second Salandit I saw, also the literal next encounter after 1% Kangaskhan, then the Cubone I actually caught, and then finally Magby. And now, we have a couple other Pokemon to catch in this section, but we have to travel back to Melemele Island for them. On the way there, Surskit evolved. I initially assumed Corsola, which we needed to find to get Marini, spawned in the Kalai Bay fishing spot. However, that's not the case. There is a Pokemon we will need to find in Kalai Bay, but I decided to hunt for Pokemon in the Melemele Sea first. Immediately I found Remoraid, which I caught with a successful crit capture for once, then Lovedisk, and then I finally got a Remoraid to call for help, and I brought in an Octillery, so I didn't even have to worry about evolving it. The other 2 Pokemon we need to find here are just 5% encounters, and I was wasting a bunch of time getting no bites, and I needed suction cups. Holy crap, the first fish with Octillery, I found the 5%, let's go! I have to find another Corsola though, as I need this Corsola to call in a Marini. And my luck so far has been determined with the Corsola's first call happening to be said Marini. The next bubbling spot, I found another 5% Corsola. What the hell is happening? A couple fishes later, I found a Clamperl, which was in a non-bubbling spot, meaning it was a 5%. Now we need this Clamperl to call in either Huntail or Gorbis, since we can't trade to get those Evos, and they're possible to catch. And I don't know which will be because I started the SOS when it was sunset in game, and now it's basically dusk. And honestly, what could have been the worst case scenario actually happened.
Okay. Shit. That's actually annoying. That's so sick though, but that's so annoying. Oh no. Well, damn it.
I mean, I'm catching it. I'm not gonna kill it.
Let's see what my chain is here. We can check. Yeah, that's 31. So we did hit max odds. So that actually is kind of funny. Literally with that one we hit max odds. So let's knock out the wrong clamp roll. Imagine you know what would be so funny but also make me upset is if this clamp roll right now calls in a Huntail. Okay. All right, that's fine. And we caught him. I'll use my other game and evolve this Pokemon once I've gotten the other ones, because this will be on my final team. Because I've never used either Huntail or Gorbis. Hey, well at least we get an evolution out of it. Hey, shiny Dex entry. That's pretty sick. This is Snow. Of course it has to be Jolly. I wanted to make it a Gorbis. I'll still make it a Gorbis. It's fine.
My biggest worry now is finding another shiny, because I don't have the ability to buy more Adrenaline Orbs until after Kiawe's trial, and I'm about out of Adrenaline Orbs. I still have 2 orbs left, so as long as we don't find another shiny, we'll be fine. But before we did anything else, I grabbed my Remoraid and Mantike, and then Rare Candy the Mantike to evolve it in Mantine. It took a while, but I finally found another Clamperl, and it was time to get it to call a Huntail. After a chain of 43, Huntail finally appeared. After catching it, Paris also evolved. Then, after a chain of nearly 100, Gorbis finally appeared. With that, we only have one more catch for this section, being Kala'e Bay. It's Shellder, which I accidentally threw a timer ball at and caught with a critical capture. With that, we're on to grinding. With all the accidental training we did during the hunt for Gorbis and Huntail, I had several evolutions happen super fast after grinding, notably Seeking, Marowak, Talonflame, Wishcash, and Magmar. The biggest issues for this section were easily Mareanie and Salandit, both because they had bad moves and struggle against the highest level Pokemon I had available to me, and also because Mareanie doesn't evolve into Toxapex until level 38. During this grinding session, I happened to stumble across the music of Nouvelle Story, which I would love to actually use in this video. I was initially planning to. Unfortunately, those get claimed. I used one for the Vi statue painting, and that video got claimed, so I will not be using it. But you should go check out his music, it's pretty cool. Anyway, with Marienie's evolution, we finished this section of the challenge with 167 total Pokemon in our decks and 117 hours of total playtime. Now we're heading back to the Royal Dome to follow Gladion, which Rotom literally would not shut up about, and we participate in the Masked Royals game. What do you mean, Professor Kukui? That's the Masked Royal. Anyway, this is a silly mode where if a single person is eliminated, the match ends, which is not how we did Battle Royales. Once we quickly beat Gladion's Type Null and Gladion does his emo thing, Captain Kiawe tells us to challenge his trial. After we pick the odd one out in these dances, we then fight the Totem Marowak. This is easily my favorite trial in these games, but with the help of the new shiny Gorbis, this trial is almost over as soon as it started. After defeating Kiawe, he gives us Quick Balls, which is nice, and the ability to fly with Charizard, which is amazing. It would have been more useful in previous segments, but it's still going to be quite handy. From the volcano, we head down to Route 7 to get the Trial Helper to move the barricade, allowing us to go to the northern part of Akala Island. Before we can do that, we finally encounter Moan. I don't know how to say his name, that's just how I'm going to pronounce it. I think it's the only time I say it in this entire video. But this unlocks Pokepelago for us, which will eventually allow us to find evolution stones and get a bunch of rainbow beans, so I can spend less time in Pokemon Refresh. I can get evolution stones in Konikoni City in the next section, but I can spend beans to unlock Isle of Fun right now, and we'll see what I can find. It'll take multiple days to get enough beans to upgrade the island, and we'll see if I genuinely want to, check back each day to collect beans and do all this thing. Spoiler alert, I do that. Anyway, continuing on, in the tunnel, we can find Kecleon. Also, apparently, Wimpod is here too. I actually don't ever remember seeing that, but that's pretty cool. In the fishing spot at the very tip of the island, we can fish up a Chinchou. Or you should be able to. It's a 35% in the bubbling spot, but I found like 4 Wishy-Washy before a fucking Chinchou. The only other Pokemon we can catch in this section actually is Stuffle. Or so I thought. I don't actually know when the Path to Diggett's Tunnel actually opened, so I may have been able to find Larvitar earlier. Based on levels, hopefully it didn't unlock until now. I was actually so excited for a short section, and finding a Larvitar was like, oh man. Anyway, I forgot to go find Stuffle, so now I've caught all the Pokemon I can for the section, as we're literally prevented from exploring the jungle until we beat Mallow's Trial. I happen to find a Waterstone in the pool later on Route 8, so now it's grinding and bean collecting time. Aside from grinding, after scrounging together enough beans to level up the beanstalk to the first Pokebelego Island, I was able to gather enough to upgrade Isle of Fun further, so we can find the evolution stones. Also, the seal showed up, and while it hasn't decided to stay, I will add it to our decks if it's part of the Alola decks. However, I didn't realize I should have already found Seal in the section before we completed Lana's Trial. You can find Seal in Seaward Cave by surfing. I forgot there was even any water to surf in Seaward Cave. Sorry about that. Another thing I started doing was checking in on the Vulpix in the Aether Foundation van, because I didn't remember if it joined us or not after befriending it, which, spoiler alert, it doesn't. These are daily tasks I'll have to attend to until I collect every evolution stone. Speaking of evolution stones, I used the water stone to get an EV to Vaporeon. While in the middle of doing homework and rewatching Absolblog's Pokemon Ultra Moon video, I happened to look up at this part in the video. Did you catch it? Well, this might not mean much to those who've never seen one of his videos. These gauntlets often involve doing a method repeatedly in order to get enough rare candies to level up a Pokemon all the way to level 100, if you're not specifically battling with that Pokemon. Which means I'll use some of these for a later grind. I was able to afford 6 of them with the points I'd already accumulated, and use 5 of them to get our now level 50 Pupitar to evolve in Tyranitar. Also, the rest of the captures we had in this section evolved in the process of grinding up the Larvitar. The first full day of Isle of Fun with the stones gave me 2 water stones, a leaf stone, and a dawn stone that currently is wildly unhelpful. I will upgrade this island further, but at the moment, it won't help me to do so, so I sent the Pokemon back into the mines. Also, the seal that showed up decided to stay. I then used the 2 water stones on 2 of our catches. Now, I'm just waiting for 4 thunderstones, 1 more water stone, 2 fire stones, a dust stone, and a shiny stone. Why did I say just? That's a lot. The biggest problem with the section is I'm forced to wait for real life days to pass, and I can't bring my DS with me as I started this on my capture DS, which has an unreliable battery, and so it stays chained to the desk. I don't really want to mess with anything clock related by putting the cartridge in a new DS because, you know, it would just make things take longer, and I don't really want to do that. And so certain stones I need, like the dust stones, are more rare than the normal stones, like quite a bit, and then I can't actually buy them, like later on. So pretty much I'm kind of forced to do this either way, and it just makes sense to do it all at once. Nevertheless, here's a quick montage of some of the stone collecting sessions and the things that I found during them. Process of this, after forgetting to check for a few days, I happened to try and use the Thunderstone I found on Magneton and Charjabug. Turns out they didn't change it so that the magnetic field Pokemon can be evolved with Thunderstones until Sword and Shield. So I actually only have 1 more evolution that I need to find a stone for, that being a Firestone for Growlithe. Now I could grind fossils in Pokepelago by doing the rare items hunt, but after spending so much time doing the stones, I don't want to waste my time doing that. Especially because they're considerably more rare than the stones. I'll be able to get a decent number of them in the next section in Konekone City. However, the ones that I can only find at Pokepelago, I'll add to sections later. My goal is to enjoy my time back with these games, not make myself burned out having to check every day for a goddamn set of fossils. So we'll deal with the fossils later. Anyways, you could tell during this rant, I finished grinding Seal into Dugong, which itself was annoying because it didn't know any stab moves into the last few levels. But while I waited to find the Firestone I needed, I set a shiny hunt for Growlithe since it was the last Pokemon I needed to evolve to finish the section. And during that, I found out something funny.
I decided to do some shiny hunting for Growlithe because I'm like, why not? I got Pokerus again. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time in this challenge I have gotten Pokerus.
And then eventually found my target.
I found a shiny Growlithe. I got the sparkles though, so it's all good. Look at that. That's so fucking sick. I love Growlithe so much. Okay, so because it's the last Pokemon I need for this section, I thought, why not shiny hunt it? And so I am in my other game, and I have my Trevenant, and I broke a chain of a little over 100, about 115, 120. That's... There we go. Look at him. I could have weakened, I could have false swiped it, because I put false swipe on this Trevenant. I don't think Trevenant gets false swipe. Hey, he wanted to be my friend. Even though snow doesn't make that much. You know what? I'll just name him Saws. We're just gonna go with it. It's okay. Yeah, look at that guy. He's so cute. There we go. Saws has been added to my party. You're so cute. Little puppy. He's bashful. That's so very cute. Look at that little puppy.
And after 10 days of Pelago expeditions, I finally got my final Firestone that I used to evolve Saws. With 191 Pokemon and over 150 hours of total playtime, this section is, for my purposes, complete. If you did what I didn't want to and found every single possible fossil Pokemon with Pokepelago, you would be a total of 211 Pokemon at this point. I then headed to the Lush Jungle to complete Mallow's trial. I forgot the Mossy Rock was in the second area here, so I left the trail early to grab one of my EVs to get Leafy. Oh my god, to get Leafy on. Now officially, aside from the fossils in Pelago, which I decided to skip until later, we've completed the section, at least for this video. One flamethrower from a new golden doggo was all that it took to beat the final trial of Akala Island. Now, it's time for the kahuna. Immediately upon beating Mallow's trial, Kukui comes up, gives us a TM, and tells us to visit the lab in Heiheia City. After I spam A through some dialogue about wormholes, we're greeted by a rift in the sky opening. I've called this something specific in the past that I will not call it in this video, and then it's time to make our way through Diglett Tunnel towards Konikoni City, where the kahuna Olivia awaits. I found another Firestone here, which is kind of poetic, before we encounter the Aether Foundation for the first time. Then we have to fight a double battle versus Team Skull. Once we leave the cave, we're stopped by Looker, and I couldn't even begin to tell you what he said. I spammed through it so fast. Right after, I dropped into the police station because the guy in the back is actually a Ditto. This will make it far easier in the future when I need to breed for lower stage Pokemon. Right next to Konikoni City is Memorial Hill, where we can catch Phantom. A bit further into the Kala outskirts, we can catch Natu and Nosepass. After accidentally stumbling into the Ruin of Life, I finally went to Konikoni City. After exploring a bit, spending all of my money on the fossils and then a new outfit, defeating the rest of the Ditto to get more money since I was low, which I did off camera, and then accidentally finding a random cutscene with Faba, which was also off camera, after which Natu evolved, I went to the random trailer on Route 8 where I can restore all the fossils I bought. In my Pelago, I happened to find a Helix fossil, which I will also restore a bit later. I then made my game nighttime, heading to the Lush Jungle where we can find a Rangaroo, Steenie, which we'll need to breed for Bounsweet, Hoothoot, Comfey, and then a Hoothoot called an Noctowl. I remember a person in Pokemon Center talking about finding a Goomy in the jungle, but it wasn't in the encounter table. Turns out, it gets brought in by SOS during a specific weather condition. Information online is kind of all over the place, because does drizzle work, or does it have to be raining in the overworld? While searching for the 4% pincer, I decided to try the in-battle method with my Drizzle Pelipper. It didn't work, but then I learned it rains at a very specific time window, 5 to 6 a.m. or 5 to 6 p.m. if you're playing on Ultra Sun. Eventually, I found the Goomy, which is only 10% when it rains. I also restored the Ammonite from the Helix fossil right before re-entering the jungle. Unfortunately, not only did I still have to find the 4% pincer, there's only a 1% chance that a cast form will get called in while it's raining. So meaning I will have to sit in an SOS battle for a long time and genuinely hope I don't find a shiny before catching a cast form. And something happened during this SOS chain. The actual worst case scenario.
I don't understand. I went to fight and I clicked the last slash here and attacked the and it attacked the Fomantis on the left. Now I had been attacking the Pokemon on the right, not the one on the left. And so for some reason it changed my target and I wasn't looking because why would it have changed my target? I just been tapping A because I had just gotten that fresh Fomantis. Excuse me, I'd gotten it like 10 turns ago or something like that. So I had been knocking out the Pokemon on the right. So I'm incredibly mad. This entire chain is just gone because Goomy cannot call for help. So I'm going to, I wasted so many resources and didn't get anything.
At the very least, I got 2 evolutions, Bastiodon and Serena, and a bunch of levels from this failed SOS chain. Afterwards, I went to the daycare and then bred the Serena for a Bounsweet egg. Now it's time to spend more time in the jungle because I still need Cast Form and Pinsir. And now it's just the Cast Form. After grinding out another chain, this time of Caterpie to somewhere over 100, I decided why not hunt in 2 files. And so I prepped my Ultra Sun file to start hunting there. No kidding, 10 minutes after this B-roll clip, this happened.
So it is like 10 minutes after I recorded that other clip of me double hunting. this is the actual file. I decided to add a double hunt after I'm over like over 100 again on this chain, because I've gone through one whole thing of my Lurantis' moves, and then I've used a bunch more Lepa berries, at least 5 Lepa berries to PowerPoint up their moves again, so it's not really that important. And so I have a chain of how many? And I found the cast form on the friggin' Ultra Sun game, and I don't care. I don't care. It's cheating. It's using another game. Like, look at this. Look at this. We are on a chain of 8. This is the 8th Fomantis. 8th Fomantis. And I found the friggin' cast form on this game. Like, what even? I'm so annoyed. Alright, that's perfectly fine.
With cast form finally secured, sorry not sorry, I still found the 1%. I just happened to use a second game to help me out and go a little faster. It's time to grind. The section didn't really take that long, even with Gumi being at pseudo levels, because I had already acquired so many Roto XP boosts, which made it breeze by. However, training Gumi itself was annoying because it's bad. It has bad moves and bad stats. I then changed my system time so it was raining in the jungle, and I used the rest of my rare candies on my Slagoo, evolving into Goodra. After multiple days of Pokevalley expeditions, which apparently I didn't record all but the last one, which I found a jaw fossil, I was hunting for the fossils because I was going to finish them in this section. And I also messed up my game clock because I changed time after the Gumi thing, and so I had to... It was a while before I actually was able to complete some of these Pokebelligo things. I was able to acquire the 4 remaining fossils I needed. And after a few more hours of grinding, which the XP share and the XP boost does wonders, we got the rest of our catches trained up. I actually forgot Tyrant only evolved during the day, so I had to train that up at another level while changing my system clock. After 167 hours of playtime, and a total of 229 Pokemon in the dex, which I'm actually certain this time is the maximum number you can have before battling Olivia, we're done with this section. Plumeria, a Team Skull admin, jumps us before we get to the ruins, but she's no problem. We then easily handle Olivia, completing the second grand trial of the challenge. Immediately upon beating Olivia, we're told to go to the Hano Ground Resort, where we meet the weirdo Faba again. Well, technically for the first time, because the first time in the actual story, I was not recording. And then we have to go to Aether Paradise. After spamming a Seeing the Sky open up, and then beating a Nihiligo, then getting the team for Psychic, which is sick, we head to the third island, Ula Ula. From there, I flew back to Akala because I realized I hadn't checked the Hano Beach area to get whatever counters were there yet, which was just Sandygast. Heading back to Melee City, we're forced to go to the garden, and to my surprise, there are literally no new Pokemon for me to catch here. After finding Kookweed the ice cream stand, we're then tasked to head up to the observatory, the site of our next trial. But first, we have to help Lily find a book. Librarians exist for a reason, girl. I don't have time for this. Up north of the Cape, we can find Minccino and Trubbish. Heading to Route 10, I immediately found a Pineco in a tree, and then went and grabbed my Magneton, so my immediate next encounter was Skarmory. And then eventually, I found Pancham. To the south of Melee City on Route 11, we can find Komala, and then I evolved Minccino with a shiny stone. After we help Lily, then go beat up the Team Skull grunts mugging the bus stop, Pinnacle evolved. We then head up to the observatory where Kookweed shows us the peak of Mount Lanakila, where he wants to host Alola's first Pokemon League. And then I didn't touch this challenge for a month because Legends ZA came out, and I was working on that project. You should go check out that video. That video ended up being way more than I ever thought it would be. On the side, actually during the section before fighting Olivia, I started hunting for a shiny Hawlucha, since I've never used one on a team in game, never even Hawlucha by itself. They don't call, like, at all in the SOS method. And so it would be a fool's errand for me to try to do that in my actual game, so I was just doing it on the side of my Ultra Sun. And I was hatching eggs, because I had the Shining Charm and I decided why not do Masada method. I deleted the initial clips I took of hatching eggs, thinking I'd actually omit this from the final video, but my thoughts changed when I actually finally found it, so I have the final couple clips, which is okay. It doesn't really matter, you didn't miss much. I was just hatching eggs, which you'll see a couple other times in this video. Hope is an absolute weenie at the beginning part of Final Fantasy 13, and so I didn't really want to name it after him, because that's where I was in the game at that point, but that's okay. I wanted to name it Yunfeng, so I ended up just changing the gender of it, and it's whatever. It's still my hatch, so I'm fine with it. It's okay. Hope will get his name a little bit later. Since we were taking a day trip into Kansas City for my sister and dad's birthday, I decided to catch the Mount Hokulani Pokemon down the road from the observatory in the car on the way there, which meant the footage ended up being very bumpy, so I will do my best to make it look palatable. I'm so sorry about this. I ended up catching Minior, Elgium, Cleffa, which actually had a Moonstone, which is pretty sick, Beldum, which was so annoying to catch. Why does it have to have a 3 catch rate? After which Pincham finally evolved in Pangoro, Sandygast evolved while looking for Elekid, and then I finally found Elekid. Beldum then evolved into Metang. I considered leaving it as Beldum for the extra XP boost, but the fact that it was able to battle as Metang far overshadowed that. And alongside that, I trained up the rest of the Pokemon for the section. Just a few hours later, we reached 252 total Pokemon, with about 173 total hours. Now, it was time to take on the trial at the observatory. I was fully prepared for the battle versus Mullane in front of the observatory, but I guess that's in the original games, because he just gave me the Steelium Z. Inside the observatory, we go talk to Sophocles, who says we need to get the Charger Bugs. Mullane just went to feed him, and it took me a while to remember he's outside, and it's literally the only reason the stupid random dirt field outside exists. Honestly, the minigame is just a waste of time. Then we get to head in the sealed off room where a massive contraption is set up, where we have to line up Charger Bugs. I remember this being way harder when I was younger, and even though I didn't see the third pattern because I was tinkering with OBS since I reinstalled Windows and had to remake my scene, I was able to remember what to do and did it immediately. The machine goes berserk. Sophocles fails to act, and the little Togedemaru absorbs the electricity to protect the Charger Bug, but it can't hold out forever. Just then, big Togedemaru appears, and it's time to fight the totem. With Saz and Yunfang. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is her first battle on the team. We easily claim the electric trial. Right after beating the trial, for some reason, Mullane suggests we should get shown something in Festival Plaza, and my expression says it all. Stopping the Pokemon Center and stocking up on items, I realized I had an absolute ton of expensive things to sell, literally quintupling my current funds. We then head back to Melee Garden to meet with the professor, where we find he is confronted by Guzma. After beating Guzma, literally everyone appears, and as soon as we come together, everyone takes off. Arriving at Route 12, we encounter the kahuna of Pony Island, Hapu. We do not know that she's the kahuna yet, but we will, who gives us Mudsdale so we can clear the rocks on the route. On Route 12, we encounter Graveler, Manectric, and Torkoal. Continuing on to Route 13, we encounter Hal and then Gladion, who tells us to protect Cosmog once it's clear we know about it. I then turn around to go back to Route 12, since I remembered I missed a path to go up to Blush Mountain, where the power plant is. Here we can catch Togedemaru and Deden, but also Charger Bug here can call in a wild Vikavolt, since otherwise we can't evolve it until Pony Island. First of these Pokemon I found was Charger Bug, and I sat in a battle a long time with it. And it happened again. Okay. That's really cool, except for the fact that I was kind of hoping for Vikavolt. So I guess I have to come back for Vikavolt. Having a shiny Vikavolt is gonna be sick. Okay. Damn it. It's weird how I'm actually slightly disappointed. But you're gonna be Hope, even though you're female. And it has a battery on it. With a sassy nature. Okay. Well, oh no, battery is its ability, that's right. Well, that's OB. I then didn't play for a while because the Legend ZA video took up a ton of my time. And I came back to find the Pokemon. And so probably 3 weeks later, I was able to come back to the challenge to find another Charger Bug and start SOS training. 45 minutes later, I was so annoyed because these guys constantly lower my defense with Crunch. They all have physical moves, and Bug Electric is a sneaky good typing against my team when this happened. Wait. Wait! That's so funny! There's no way! Dude, it's so dumb! I didn't know that this counted as a magnetized place! That's so funny! Alright, well, I'm glad that I'm done with that. Damn it! Honestly, though, that's cool. Look at this. Bro, look at her. She's so sick. That's so funny. That's actually so funny. I thought you could only evolve it in Pony Canyon. Oh, thank goodness. Yes. That's so good. Look how sick that is, bro. Dude, that is so incredible. Oh my god, that's so nice. Learn Bug Buzz or something. Ooh, that's okay. We'll go with Thunderbolt. That's so good. I genuinely assumed it was just the Pony Canyon because that's what I had remembered, but it turns out in the Ultra games, one of the quality of life updates is that they made the power plant a electromagnetic field, so you can evolve the electromagnetic field Pokemon, which means I didn't have to wait until Pony Island to evolve my shiny Charjabug and also my Magnezone. So that was very sick. Add Probopass in there, I forgot about Probopass. Then I continued searching for the other new Pokemon I needed here, Togedemaru, and then finally Deden. Upon catching Deden, the Magneton and Nosepass both did evolve, respectively. I went back to the Pokemon Daycare and bred my Graveler and Manectric to get Geodude and Electric. Then, after going to the Tapu Village and spamming A through a lore dump from the Ultra Recon Squad, I headed back to Route 13, where we can fish up Bruxish. In the Tapu Village, we can find Snorunt. I'll need two, one to evolve into Frostlass, which I did immediately with the Dawnstone, and then another to get Glalie. Frostlass is only female only, and luckily the first one I found was female. Then a Lowland Sandshrew, which I evolved with an Ice Stone, and then eventually Absol. Heading down to Route 14, we encounter a woman being assaulted by Frillish, and we're able to catch one. It's so much nicer than trying to find the 20% one, too. And that is all the Pokemon we can catch before the Ghost Trial, since we can't progress further without Sharpedo, which we get from Grimsley after the upcoming trial. So I then went to the Aether House to progress the story. We're jumped by the little kids there. I don't remember if they're Ace Roll's siblings or not, I don't remember the lore, doesn't matter, but Hope easily deals with the Yellow Kid. Then Ace Roller shows up, saying Lily's out and about, and mentions she's the trial captain. Heading to the building, Lily is being jumped herself, this time by Team Skull. We rush down, quickly wallop the grunt, and get a gift of 5 luxury balls. Not the worst, but honestly I would have preferred quick balls at this point. Then Ace Roller tells us to follow her to the supermarket, but before that, I've got to do a bit of grinding. Since we have just 2 Pokemon to grind, I get to work in the Tapu Village grass because it's conveniently next to the Pokemon Center, and not much later, our Pokemon evolve. Now that you've watched this far, you noticed I have not put the final total box up yet. That's because I happened to take one more look at all of my Pokemon and remembered Crabrawler. I then looked up how to evolve it, and I was worried it was an Ice Stone, like the modern games, but luckily for me, I don't have to go find another Ice Stone because it's not. You can evolve it at Mount Lanakila, and luckily for us, we have a little bit of Mount Lanakila available to us. After just one battle, our level 8 Crabrawler becomes a level 9 Crabominable, and we finish this section just shy of 179 hours with a total of 272 possible Pokemon, which, again, I'm pretty positive is the max you can actually have at this point. Now it's time for Ace Roll's trial. This trial involves us being paranormal investigators and taking pictures of the hidden ghost Pokemon infesting the random items within the building. After beating the ghastly line, we see an apparition of Acerola telling us to get out. Following into the back room, it was actually hard for me to look at the Mimikyu because of being tethered to my PC, but I got it. Totem Mimikyu has consistently been the most difficult trial for me in the past, even though I forgot about its disguise and Z Thunderbolted it. Hope was easily able to win the battle by herself, earning us the Ghostinium Z. Afterwards, Acerola gives us permission to catch Pokemon here, and here we can find Klefki, Shuppet, which I was actually confused about because I didn't see it on the page, Mimikyu, eventually, and Hunter can call in Gengar, so we'll have to sit in another SOS battle. Anyway, Rabombi got a crazy high roll and knocked out the new Haunter and ended the battle, after which Shuppet evolved. The next day I grabbed my other game to help hunt for the 1% Gengar, and as punishment, if I found a shiny in my other game, I would actually kill it, just because I was technically cheating. But I didn't have to worry about that, because if I had 2 nickels for every time that my second game found the rare 1% very quickly, I would have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Bro, this is the second time within like the first couple encounters. This is the first call. This is the first call from the goddamn Haunter when it shows up. There's a Gengar. You can see it. There he is. Dude. It's fine. I spent so long yesterday hunting on this game and being unsuccessful. It's fine. Man, I don't care, bro. Thank you for doing that, frankly. I just gave it Harvest. I haven't even given it the Lepamary. That's crazy, dude. With that, it's time to head back to the Aether House, where Plumeria and a couple of grunts wait. We quickly dispatch her and then discover the kid's Yungoos has been stolen, and we have to head to Potown to get it back. Meeting Grimsley on the beach, we get access to Sharpedo, which is just by default the best surfing Pokemon in the game, allowing us to continue north on Route 15. There are no new Pokemon for us to find here, so we can continue on without wasting much time. On Route 16, we can catch Scraggy, the only new Pokemon here. Right after, while randomly going through the Pokedex again, I realized I never got Sableye. Wait, how? Initially, I assumed it was a version exclusive to Mawile, but then, literally while I was thinking that, I was also shiny hunting Mawile on Ultra Sun, so it's not that. It turns out that you have to scroll farther down on the Cerebi page to find some other part that it mentions, which is actually just still the main cavern, but it doesn't even matter because it's just an SOS call of Carbink. I typically prefer Bulbapedia for most other things, but for this specific thing, it happened to be a lot easier to use Cerebi, but I don't really like Cerebi's interface, so whatever. So unfortunately, we've been one short since Section 3, which sucks, but you know, that comes with the breaks. But with that, we have every single Pokemon in one copy of the game that one can get in Melee's Pokedex. From there, I headed back to Ula Ula, breezing past the meadow since all of those Pokemon are repeats, until we get to Route 17. While searching for Bisharp, the only new Pokemon on this route, Scraggy evolved. I then grabbed my Magnezone so I could use Magnapole, and my second encounter was the 5% Bisharp. I then flew back to the daycare to get Pawniard. I then headed to the Haina Desert, since I remembered that opened up after beating Acerolla's trial. Immediately in the rustling spot, I found the 10% Trapinch. I then found 5 of the 30% Alola and Doug trio before I found Krokorok, which is more common, and knocked them out, and got my Trapinch to evolve for the first time. I then hopped into an SOS battle with Krokorok since I needed to call in Baltoy, when it called in something unexpected. The percentages didn't add up on the Cerebi page, so my guess is there's actually an error, and Gabite is supposed to be there. It's just not. I was very surprised. Anyway, after Krokorok further solidified itself as my least favorite Pokemon, I got a Trapinch to finally call in a Baltoy instead. Now that's actually literally all the new Pokemon we can catch right now. So before we head on to Potown, I grind up our Pokemon and then also breed a Sandile and Gibble, finishing this section with a total of 293 Pokemon. I forgot to save and show the time that it actually was until after I got into Aether Paradise, so I don't exactly know what time we were at this point. It's not really that big of a deal. Anyway, then heading to Potown, we defeat all the Skull Grunts and then their leader, Guzma. Everything happens back to back after that, with Nanu greeting us outside of the schoolhouse, then heading back to the Aether House where we discover Lily has been willingly kidnapped, then Gladion runs in a rage and forces us to battle. After beating him, he drags us to the Ulu Ulu port, where we're challenged by Nanu, and I was mashing A so fast we went right into battle. Luckily, since we had no more Pokemon to catch, it didn't really matter. This is by far the easiest battle I've ever had against Nanu. Flashbacks to both of the Wonder Wedlocks where his Krokorok, which, fun fact, this was the first game that enemy Pokemon had EVs, and I never understood why Krokorok outsped both of my Vulpix, or both of my Ninetales, both times, even though it physically couldn't, but it had EVs, so it had just enough EVs to outspeed them both times. With that, our third grand trial is completed. We head to Aether Paradise with Gladion and Hal, where we begin our assault. We meet Faba for the first time, again, where we wallop him and then he gives us false information to head downstairs. There we learn Lily's Cosmog may be an Ultra Beast, and they're wanting to stress it to get it to create wormholes. And heading back upstairs, Faba has gathered other people to ambush us before we can go to where Lusamine is, indirectly selling out her location. After easily breaking the ambush and seeing the faces of the horsemen, Faba gives us the key. There we find a whole bunch of Team Skull Grunts, and Guzma standing guard at the door. After getting revenge for Gladion by zapping Guzma's bugs, we head to the house where the Ultra Recon Squad stands. The reasoning for fighting me doesn't actually make much sense, and then we walk in on Lusamine and Lily. Lily is incredulous and ecstatic we're here to help her, and Lusamine reveals how awful of a person she is, before thanking Lily for keeping the Cosmog she wants to hurt safe. Following her into the lab, we learn how sick in the head Lusamine is, and then everyone else joins us. She activates the first wormhole that Cosmog resists against, and then we're forced to battle her. After setup sweeping her with my Rabombi, she decides to continue anyway and actually opens the wormhole. Guzma follows her in, and we're left to wonder what to do until the Ultra Recon Squad mentions the altar on Pony Island to get the help of the other legendary. The next day, we meet Lily outside, who has entirely changed her look in preparation for Journey to Pony Island, calling it her Z-powered form. Side note, when I was talking in the beginning how this should have just been a third version, this is how you could have chosen which of the legendaries you get. Basically, you have two compliments that you can give Lily in her Z-powered form, and telling her she's as brilliant as the sun, or she's as, like, something as the moon, or something like that, and you can pick one of those two, and that picks which legendary you have. I think that would have made sense, because again, it was kind of like they made Platinum, but then 2 versions. That would be weird, right? That's kind of what the Ultra games are. And they said it should just been one. It should just been Eclipse or something like that. Anyway, a side note over. Gladian brings us a Sun Flute, which is one of the flutes we'll need to summon the legendary. We then head to Pony Island's Seafold Village, a quaint little village built on a dock. Here we can immediately get an Aerodactyl, and fish up Whalmer and Delmise. Whalmer can call on Wailord, but I didn't really feel like hanging around in the battle because of rest, and I just caught a level 41 instead, which will evolve very soon into Wailord. North of the village is the Pony Wilds, where we can catch Gastrodon and Granbull, which I caught 2 of because of the in-game trade in the Seafold Village for Shellos, which means I don't have to breed my Gastrodon. Not long after, my Whalmer evolves, and we officially reached 300 Pokemon. Continuing on, we encounter Hapu, who says there isn't a kahuna on this island, and wants us to follow her to the ruins. Her grandma then gives us Machamp, allowing us to move boulders. This will unlock a few other encounters in a couple other places a little bit later. Moving to the Pony Breaker Coast, we have many rare encounters to find here. Carvana and the rare Relicanth. It's less rare in bubbling spots, but I got the rare encounters back to back while fishing. And Carvana evolved while I was trying to find the surfing encounters. Having really low percentage surfing encounters, along with how hard it is to get encounters while surfing, does suck. I do like that they make you get less encounters while surfing, because like for a quality of life thing, that's really nice. But for my challenge, it sucks. Eventually, I found the 5% chance of Lapras, which was annoying to find. And right after catching it and then checking the rustling spot, I finally found the last Pokemon I needed here, being Dragalge. After breeding Dragalge and Granbull to get Snubbull and Scrub, I actually thought we were done with this section until I checked the Pokedex again. Heading back to the lush forest, upon moving a strength boulder to the east, there is a cave where we can find the 1% Larvesta, which luckily didn't take that long. And then, luckily, the task of leveling it up to 59 to evolve into Volcarona isn't that bad at this point in the game. And about 2 hours later, it was time to move on. Now, with Pony Island being different from the other islands, we have our battle with the Kahuna before we take on any trials. Or so I thought, at least. I'll explain in a bit. Maybe you're remembering that I said, there's no Kahuna on this island, and I raise you the bit of the story where Hapu gets chosen as the new Kahuna. Anyway, she says she'll tell us about the legendary if we beat her in a battle, so let's go do that. Actually, first, I forgot we have to go to Exeggutor Island and get the other flute that Hapu mentioned. On the island, after chasing off the pincer harassing the Exeggutor, we can catch Execute and Tropius. I can also find wild Exeggutor, but I didn't care to keep searching, so I'll just evolve that once we're back to the village. Upon grabbing the flute, a rainbow appears, and we head back to the village where I evolve my Execute, finishing this section with a total of 312 total Pokemon. Before we can fight Hapu though, Team Skull blocks the pass, and we sweep 6 grunts away before Plumeria tells them off for stopping us when we're trying to save Guzma. Then apologizes to Lily before asking us to save Guzma and giving me the Poison Z Crystal. A bit further at the entrance of the vast Pony Canyon, we find Hapu waiting. So I thought we fought Hapu first, but that's in the original games. Instead, we get challenged again by the silly Ultra Recon Squad, who realize they cannot beat Necrozma themselves and ask us to do it. From there, we follow Lily into the canyon where we can collect Mienfoo and the 5% Jangmo. While going through the canyon, I was shiny hunting on my new Capture 3DS, which I had finally received. At the time, I hadn't received the product code with it, so I actually could not use it for the Capture software. So technically I did have it, but I actually could not use it. And not to mention, I actually also had to hack it because the guy I ordered it from, I forgot he's a Brit. So I could not play my American games on my European DS, but it's okay. Everything's fixed now and I can play whatever I want on this. I ordered from Delfino Customs if you're curious. And I happen to find my shiny Vulpix on a chain of 7. I forgot I hadn't started the audio recording, so that part of the reaction is lost, but here's my facial expression and the phone recording I took of the little girl. And then my reaction when I caught her in a beast ball. This is not for the team because Vulpix isn't in this game and it would actually influence the final total of encounters, so she's just there, but I found her and it's awesome. Anyway, through my travels, my Jangmo evolved into Hakamo and then Kamo, the latter of which caught me by surprise because I thought it was at level 48. Then a bit later, Mienfoo reached level 50 and evolved into Mienshao. Now I've caught everything I can before the Dragon Trial, or again, so I thought. And it turns out that at a cave near the end that you have to go through under branches before the gauntlet of trainers with a Team Skull Grunt is a little cave where you can go through and find a fishing spot where you can find corefish. It is more common in the bubbling spots, that's what I was resetting for. And funny enough, it should not have taken as long to find a corefish in the bubbling spot because it's more common than barboach in the bubbling spot, but I found 2 barboach before I found a corefish. But anyways, I finally found one. And then, as I was leaving the cave, Whoa! Oh, that's crazy! Oh, that's ridiculous, dude. It's so sick. In case you wondered, no cheats, and obviously I've not completed the Pokédex, so I don't have the shiny charm. Bro, that's so cool. Actually, funny enough, I'm shiny hunting on the other DS. So I'm shiny hunting Moyle here. Wild random Bulldor, that's so sick. Okay. I did not expect that, that's for sure. Of course I wouldn't. I wasn't hunting, I was leaving. See, this is why I don't use repels. I'm glad I didn't leaf blade it thinking it had sturdy. I actually didn't realize I could have weak armor as a normal ability. Hiya! Sick. I'm just trying to train up my Corphish now. Yes, dude, that's so cool. That's so cool. Look at her. I don't even know if there's another Final Fantasy. Sarah. We're gonna name her. You know, that's actually a perfect name. That's so funny. Oh my gosh, let's check her out. She's got weak armor. Not a bad nature for this Pokemon. Sassy. Yeah. That's insane. Okay. That's really cool. I then leveled up my Corphish, evolving into Crawdont, and finally, for real this time, catching every possible Pokemon I could before the next trial. Said Dragon Trial gave me a bit more trouble than I expected, and something I noticed a little bit later when doing save editing to change EVs on some of my Pokemon is that my Rabombi is terrible.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm doing a little bit of save editing. Oh my god, Rabombi is terrible. She got max speed and max attack EVs from what? That's so funny. In her, she has base 4 IV special attack. That's ridiculous. Poor Vanille.
Nonetheless, we beat the Dragon Trial. Immediately upon completing the trial, we continue on to the Altar of the Moon, where Lily and I somehow know how to play this song to call the Legendary, which starts probably my favorite cutscenes in all of Pokemon. And I'm going to kind of speed them up to quickly recap because there's a lot of them, so I don't just play you a cutscene movie. Nebby evolves into Lunala as the altar casts down a beam of light, and we realize it was the Legendary all along. Then a new wormhole opens up, dumping Guzma and Lusamine on us, before Necrozma itself appears. Nebby and Necrozma duke it out, but Necrozma wins, corrupting Nebby to create Dust Wings Necrozma. Then opens up a whole bunch of wormholes, sending Ultra Beast to all corners of Alola. We also get to see the reactions of the Kahunas and what again feels like an on your left moment as everyone is teaming up to fight, before Necrozma steals our light and vanishes into a wormhole. The Ultra Recon Squad appears, saying we need to take the other legendary, Solgaleo, through Ultra Space to find the white wormhole. After figuring out how to change my controls back to the C-Stick, we fly through the Ultra Space to reach the Ultra Megalopolis, basically Black City on crack, and we're asked to go to the top of the big tower to stop the rampaging Necrozma. Something I actually really just realized as I was typing out the script at this point is that Ultra Space and Ultra Megalopolis, USUM. I didn't realize that until I actually, was writing it out. It was kind of funny. The climb up the tower is ominous, as no music plays, and we witness Necrozma extract the prism from Lunala, then transforming into Ultra Necrozma. The hardest boss battle in the game, and probably all of Pokemon. I remember to turn on animations this time, but we only got to see Necrozmas as it started wiping the floor with my team, because it gets a Omni Boost. After resetting to try again, this is when I pulled up my team in save editing to realize how bad the EVs were all for my Pokemon, as well as how bad my Rabombi really was. A 4 IV in special attack with a maxed attacks EV on top of her jolly nature, making her possibly the worst Rabombi possible. I also changed a few moves in Pokemon and fixed EVs for literally everyone aside from Lightning and Snow. And then I tried again. My bug types got squashed by Power Gem, and thinking this was going to be a repeat of last time, I sent in Lightning. I was able to paralyze the beast after surviving a Dragon Pulse, and then I remembered I had a Roto Boost. So I used an Omni Boost to match what Ultra Necrozma had. This would allow me to survive future attacks from Necrozma, and on the same turn it got fully paralyzed. I would use this opportunity to set up a nasty plot, and then she took care of the rest. Of course it was the Pokemon that I didn't edit, and also my first Pokemon that I really kept on the team that is my starter and all. Of course it was that. With Necrozma's defeat, the two legendaries defuse, and the light returns to the worlds it was stolen from, with Nebi returning to Lily shortly thereafter. After thanking me for quelling Necrozma, we're given a Poipole by Dulce and Zosi. Upon returning to our world, the Ultra Recon Squad tells us that maybe we can return the light to Necrozma without sending it into a rage, and we'll deal with that a bit later, though we technically have 2 more trials to go before then. Lucamine and Lily thank me for what I've done, and depart for Aether Paradise. Then Mina shows up at the altar, telling me her trial is available to take on. The only Pokemon we have to train for this section is literally the Poipole, as no new areas have been open to us, so once it becomes Naganadel, it's time for the final normal trial of the game. Or so I thought. You seeing a pattern here? I forgot Poipole only evolves once it knows Dragon Pulse, and I literally cannot get it to have Dragon Pulse because the move reminder is not until Mount Lanakila, and also it just doesn't learn it by level up, and I also cannot get the tutor move for it because that is also in the post game. This is a 1 Pokemon section. Because none of the wormhole Pokemon are in the Alola Dex, I will say that again, they do not count for the Dex, so I'm not going to go catch them. After locking in and doing some Mantine surfing to gain a bunch of battle points, because I was under the impression that I could have just taught Dragon Pulse, it was time for Mina's trial. Funny enough, this Ribombee gets the strongest stat boost in the game with a +2 Omni boost, which is ridiculous. However, I have my Arcanine who hopes to massively destroy it with a Z Flare Blitz. Wait, I thought the trial was the Totem Ribombee? Is that in the original games? Wow, I've completed all these events so many times. Oh wait, I'm actually right still. We have to get a pedal from all the captains first. After doing that, it's time to take on the Totem Ribombee, which I was actually a little bit worried about, but Hope says no need to worry. Outgoing with Z Flash Cannon, completing our final trial. There is nothing separating us from our final grand trial versus the new Kahuna Hapu, and so we face off on Executor Island, where we easily win, earning us our next to last Z Crystal and completing the island challenge. From there, it's time to head to Mount Lanakila, where we will have to sit in another infinite battle, but we'll deal with that shortly. After beating Gladion, who says Lily told him to give us a PP Max, what do you mean by that? We can go up the elevator. There we can immediately find Sneasel. Take my word for it, here's a later clip with the Pokeball icon with the caught icon. Somehow I double-clicked the record button and only had a frame of footage, and didn't realize that had happened. Inside the cave part, just crazy shit happened. Whoa! Okay, I am recording my audio, I thought I didn't. I haven't been recording my video. Was the Sneasel recorded? What happened? I'm confused. When did I stop recording? I did record it's a 0-second clip. What? I guess I must have accidentally double-clicked it. I literally just found this Glalie. So anyways, I caught a Sneasel a little bit ago. You have to take my word for it. It's like... What is happening? I've gotten 2 shinies the last 2 days, full odds, because I still haven't completed the Dex. And this one was a first encounter after using Encounter Power, because I'm trying to find Drampa. Absolute crazy shit, dude. Okay, then. I mean, I can show you no shiny charm, in case you don't believe me. So, anyway, let's keep going. My audio is recorded, at least. What is going on right now? What is happening? As soon as we encounter a Pokemon in the snow, we're just gonna get Vanillish instantly, aren't we? That would be sick, frankly. You heard me mention Vanillish after catching Drampa, and the last Pokemon I will catch here happens to be a 10% Vanillish SOS call during a snowstorm. Technically, there's also a 1% chance of Vanillix, but honestly, I don't think that will happen, and Vanillish will just solve that for me anyway. A bit further, we stumble upon a massive crater where Necrozma sits. After sharing some of her light, it's time to catch it. I debated using the Master Ball, but I decided to try a Quick Ball first for the hell of it. And in the next room, I found the Ice Rock, and since I don't have my Eevee, I'll have to come back to get Glaceon. After finally arriving at the top of the mountain, I taught Poipole Dragon Pulse and grabbed my Eevee. At the Ice Rock, Eevee evolved into Glaceon and Poipole evolved into Naganadel. After finding where I could buy 3 more TMs to get 50 so I could get a Razor Claw, I set my game to night, bringing along Sneasel so I could get XP and level up. It only snows at night on the mountain, and so I had to change my DS clock before hopping into battle with an Alolan Sandshrew, and after about 15 minutes, I found the ice cream cone. Sneasel then evolved after the battle. From there, I used a final rare candy on the Vanillish to get Vanillix, and then went to the daycare to get a Vanillite egg. With that, I'm confident in saying 329 Pokemon is the max number you can catch in one copy of Pokémon Moon before the Elite Four. Now, let's take on the Elite Four. Kahili is such a strange character, because you only ever meet her when you grab the Flyinium Z, and if you didn't know what that was, you just meet this random character for the first time ever in the Elite Four. I know that's how it literally was in every region before this one, but Alola was doing things differently when you got to meet like all the different characters, and Kahili's just the strange case here. Either way, Hope and Saw zapped her wings. Acerola was only tough because I wanted to sweep with lightning and she kept getting super unlucky. I then moved on to Molayne, who I felt underprepared for despite the amount of options I did have and being super overleveled. Then, the false Olivia, I got my wish with the Hypno Sweep. With the Elite Four defeated, we took the elevator and then climbed the staircase to the Champion's Throne, as we are the first ever champion in the Alola region. And our final test is our first title defense against our rival, Hao. Each one of my team members got involved in the battle, and I only used one potion compared to Hao's 3 at the end, with Sauce coming out the victor. With that, our title defense is complete, and we are officially the first champion of Alola.
Lightning the Hypno. Diavini the Rabombi. Saz the Arcanine. Snow the Gorbis. Hope the Vikavolt. And Yunfang the Hawlucha. What a team, dude! As credits roll and we see bits of the celebration, as well as hints of things I have to catch in the post-game, I actually started getting emotional. I kind of realized just how much I did like these games, and how important this new project was to overtake that deep hatred I actually had for this point in my life, that I had played these games. The only fault the games had were just not being a third version, and being 2 individual releases, just a year after Sun and Moon. Everything else around them was just bad circumstance. Despite all the feels, we're not done with this Oak Challenge. We have a bunch more Pokemon to catch. Upon waking up the next day, Hal tells us some strange people were looking for us, being the Ultra Recon Squad. There's an outbreak of Stakataka on Pony Island, the first Ultra Beast we'll be catching, but before that, Wick gives us a type Null. We then find the 2 Stakataka we'll need to catch before leaving. The next morning, Sophocles barges in saying weird people are in the festival plaza, and we have to start the Rainbow Rocket events. I will have to finish this later for a gift Pokemon too. After I got lucky with an actually good Pokemon at whatever the rental battle thing is, we were free from this mess for now. It then cuts to the next day where there's a news broadcast from the Aether Paradise about how the problems are over right before a brand new wormhole opens up, causing chaos. Lily arrives at our house, telling us she's worried, and then leaves. Before going to the Paradise, I headed to Pony Island, where we have another half of the island to explore. In the Pony Grove, where we were at earlier, we can find Heracross and Riolu, which took an insanely long time to find, and then a final Gambadid, so I had to find another, and then I was extremely pissed off. Unironically, I don't believe it was a 10%. It was 1%. I'm going to say it's a 1%. It was ridiculous how many Pokemon I found before I found a second Riolu, dude. Moving on to the Pony Plains, while searching for the rare tree encounters we need, Type Null and Riolu level up and evolved into Silvally and Lucario respectively. I pumped them full of berries so they evolved very quickly. In the Shaken Grass patches we can catch Pyroar, in the bushes, Scyther, and in the trees, Emolga and Apom. Immediately after catching Apom, I evolved it into Ambipom. In the Pony Meadow, the only new thing we can catch is Dratini, being a 10% spawn chance at the bubbling fishing spots. Heading through the meadow, we reach Resolution Cave, where Dratini evolves and we can find Druddigon. I thought the name sounded familiar, so it was funny when I walked down the ramp into the deeper section and found Zygarde waiting for me. Luckily, he made it easy for me to snag him. Leaving the cave and heading north to Pony Plains, we encounter a looker and a woman named Annabelle, both members of the International Police. Continuing past them, there's literally nothing new we can catch on the Pony Coast, and we'll continue farther into the Pony Gauntlet, where we can only find one new Pokemon, Lickitung. Aside from evolving my Dragonair, the Lickitung, and breeding the Pyro for Litleo, the only Pokemon we have remaining we catch are legendary Pokemon. I then decided to go catch the Tapus, starting with Finny, my favorite, and of course it was the most difficult to capture. I then went to Bulu, who was by far the easiest catch. Lily was next, and wasn't much more difficult than Bulu. On my way to Koko, I was surprised by Lily and Nebby. She wanted me to battle and catch the legendary, and so I obliged.
It turns out Necrozima's catch rate was boosted to nearly max, like 255 I think, so as much as Bidoof. And then it's 45 for Lunala/Solgaleo at this point, specifically because you have to catch them for the story. You don't have to catch Necrozma, but you know, you should. It's very weak, that's why they made it easy to catch. And the catches weren't as crazy lucky as I initially thought. It doesn't really matter. It was nice to not have to struggle catching legendaries, like the Tapus. Anyway, I then made my way further to the Ruins of Conflict, where I went after Tapu Koko. It wasn't nearly as difficult as Finny, but it was worse than Lele. Either way, we've caught all the legendary Pokemon we need for our decks. There are still 2 more we will get, plus all the Ultra Beasts, but none of the other legendaries in the wormholes are in the Alola decks. Now we're going to be spending a lot of time at the wormhole on the altar in Pony Island. First, we travel to the Reverse World to get the Cosmog at the Altar of the Sun, which I'll have to painstakingly train to level 50 to get Cosmoem. Then it's time to spend a whole hell of a lot of time searching for rare white wormholes. Pretty quickly, I got Pheromosa's Portal, the Ultra Desert, where we easily catch it with just one Beast Ball. These guys have pretty good catch rates with the Beast Balls, luckily. Buzzwole's an Ultra Sun exclusive, so I will not be catching it. The next white wormhole I found led me to Ultra Deep Sea, where we can catch an Ioligo. Then, forgetting how the UB mechanics worked, I waste a bunch of time jumping into random white wormholes, finding Xurkitree in the process, but nothing else. Turns out, you do need to go a lot farther and jump into the higher rarity ones, because I thought it was just a random chance for every single one, but it turns out that with the more rare rings around it and things like that, the more higher chances you have to find the more rare ones, which for Ultra Moon are Celesteela, and then for both games, Guzzlord. Guzzlord was such a pain in the ass to find, dude. Oh my god, it took me so long. And I literally switched over to my other game so I could play away, and of course, as soon as I did that is when I found it. Anyway, my hand hurts. My hands hurt after freaking doing that for so long. I also found 3 shinies in Ultra Space, so that's kind of cool. Now, going through the Pokedex once more, I realized that Misdreavus was not a version exclusive, just a low percentage of Night Spawn in Pony Meadow. I just missed that, so I had to go back there and find it. I quickly evolved it to a Dustone right after. Aside from that, the literal only other Pokemon we can get is Porygon. We are very literally at the threshold. I went to Aether Paradise to start handling the collection of evil psychos created to advertise Pokemon Go, starting with Baba. Then we take on Maxie and Archie after doing a whole bunch of things. I don't really need to summarize the story. It's just all the bad guys who won in their different timelines, who got brought to this timeline, and beating them sends them back to their own timelines, and that's kind of about it. Once you get all the way through there and you send away Giovanni and whatnot and you rescue Aether Paradise, you can go back to the Aether House and get the final Pokemon of the challenge. And that is time. This is the last Pokemon that you can get on 1 copy of Pokemon Ultra Moon. A total of just over 90% in the Pokedex. 363 total Pokemon. There's literally no other Pokemon that we can get. So we have seen 389 total Pokemon and caught 363, and that is the maximum that we can see. A lot of the ones that we have not seen are we've got a couple of these, and then a couple of base form starters, other things, and also version exclusive legendary Pokemon. And so we've literally caught every single Pokemon that we can. Everything else is either a trade or a version exclusive to Pokemon Ultra Sun. Here we are, December 27th, 2025, with a total of 209 hours and 57 minutes, just shy of 210 total hours. The Ultra Moon Professor Oak Challenge has been completed with this incredible team of shiny Pokemon. One hell of a ride, for sure. Sending it back to myself in the future. This was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. I think it was more work than I initially expected. It probably would have been better to do the, Moon, because there's a lot less Pokemon in the Moon decks and whatnot. But honestly, I think because of the fact that I had as much of a beef with the Ultra games as I did, it was a good idea for me to specifically have taken on the Ultra games. As I mentioned, I did this all off the cuff, so it was off the cuff in the sense that I was looking at Cerebi on the specific route and doing my best to make sure that I caught everything as soon as I could. So there's a bunch of errors that I made, and that happens because I wasn't going off of a guide or a video that I was watching or anything like that. And I got to use a cool team of shiny Pokemon, a couple of which weren't actually found in the game, but I would have hunted if it was easily more feasible and whatnot. But it was a massive undertaking and a massive project, and it's it's about 900 gigabytes. With this video file, it's gonna be like 900 gigabytes of footage that I still have to edit. So it was a massive undertaking, and I really do hope you all enjoyed. I put my heart and soul into this video because it mattered a lot to me to do it, and I really do hope you all enjoyed. If you did, appreciated. I'll do another Professor Oak at some point. I don't know what I'm gonna do it on, but I'm gonna take a bit of a break from Professor Oak challenges. So once again, thank you all. If you're still watching at this point, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, appreciated. Make sure to subscribe for more, and I will talk to you all later.
Oh, baby, once we find our way, sure, it'll be